sorry about that. But welcome to Armor 101. I'm also going to talk a little bit about prop making and stuff like that. Anything kind of... Hey! Okay, sorry, I know him. I know this guy. Okay, so my name is Maddie. I go by Veenacos in the cosplay community and on like all my social media. But I've been cosplaying for about a year and making cosplay since the beginning of this year. And as of right now, I make all of my costumes. Let me come around front because I'm wearing a bunch of armor. Okay, so all of the armor I'm wearing right now is made out of craft foam and Worbla. These right here are made out of foam board, and then these on my back here are made out of insulation foam. Really, you can use any material to make whatever. I'm going to be covering like a wide range of stuff, but you can really use anything as long as you coat it really well and make it nice and sturdy and give it a good paint job, and it should last you a while. But personally, my favorite thing to use is Worbla. It's really useful. Also, if you have any questions during this, just raise your hand. Yes?
What is Worbla?
What is Worbla? I will talk about that. Alright, cool. So let's talk about Worbla then. Alright, so Worbla is this thermoplastic and thermoadhesive. People use it to kind of cover things. You buy it online. There's actually a guy here in Atlanta. I don't buy from him, so I'm not familiar with his name, but you could probably Google it. And he sells it in person. That's the only place really ever you can buy it in person. You can buy it from places like Arta Wigs, Cosplay Supplies, Coscraft.uk, places like that. But yeah, so it's a thermoplastic and a thermoadhesive, which means it starts off in a thin, like 1 millimeter sheet. And like it comes in a big roll depending on how much you buy. Usually I just buy the big jumbo sheets, and it is rather expensive, but I think it's definitely worth it if you invest in it, or if you like win the money back from like a cosplay contest or something like that. But it runs for about $70, $80 for a very large sheet, which should probably be about the size of this table times like 2, something like that. That's about how big it is. So it doesn't seem like much, but the thing about Worbla is you can take it, you can repurpose all of the scraps, and like I said, because it's a thermoadhesive or thermoplastic, if you take a heat gun to it or any other source of heat, it becomes very malleable and soft and flimsy, and that's where it comes from, where you cover things with it. Like if I wanted to make armor like this, all I had to do was cut the shape out of craft foam, and then, you know, glue all the details on it and everything, and then I just covered it in Worbla. And you can either sandwich it in Worbla, which is do like a layer of Worbla, the craft foam, and then put another layer of Worbla over it, and, you know, push the edges together and then cut away all the excess. Or you can do what I do, which is, you know, very conservative, and it saves Worbla. You can just fold over the edges. Like if you leave about a centimeter or an inch, depending on how thick it is, you can just fold over the edges and it will do the same thing. Albeit it will be a little bit more flimsy, if flimsy is even the right word to use. Worbla is really sturdy. I can actually pass something around. Here, I'm gonna start, I know this, so I'm gonna start over here and just pass it around. If you look on the inside of it, that's just attached with elastic, but if you look on the inside, that's just craft foam in there. And then I just fold it over the edges. And Worbla is a thermoadhesive, which means that it sticks to itself when it gets hot. And it also means that things like hot glue, a heat-based glue, works really well on it. But Worbla virtually sticks to anything. It can actually stick to leather. Like if I were to make this armor and then heat it up and stick it directly onto my boot, it would probably stay. I wouldn't count on it because it's a shoe, so it's going to be hitting stuff all the time. But there's absolutely like hardly any way you could break that. The only thing that you have to be careful with about it is heat. So like if it's really hot outside or it's really sunny and it's left out in the sun or in a hot car or something, it can melt and it'll ruin your project and all the paint will smear everywhere. And it's just a big disaster. One time I was moving a big sheet of black Worbla. There's different types of Worbla. I can get into that too. But I was moving a sheet of black Worbla and it heats up a little bit faster than regular Worbla. And I put it in the back of the truck and I went down and it was in the sun for a little bit. And as soon as I went to go back and pick it up, it was like melty and flimsy, and I thought it was going to fold on itself and stick, and that would have been a huge waste of Worbla. I wouldn't have been able to use it for like covering stuff because it would have been all weird. But I saved it just in time, but it was just really scary how fast it heated up, and it made me realize that if it was like dead summer, like if you were at a con like Anime Expo or something like that, and your armor was in the sun, or you were in the sun all day with armor on, it would probably like melt and stick to your body and all sorts of awful things. And that's actually happened to people before. I don't know any stories, it's never happened to me, but it's kind of scary to think about. So the way I did, if you look, I have all these little like noodle shapes on my bracer. That's just Worbla that I heated it up like a rectangle, and I like folded it and I rolled it into like a noodle shape, and then it stuck to itself, and I just set it on there. And then these spikes are made entirely of black Worbla that you can sculpt it and mold it, which is the really cool thing about Worbla, is that you can literally do anything with it. You could probably make anything out of Worbla. There's this account I follow on Instagram, and it's called Cast4Art, like the number 4. And they repost all sorts of things that people have made, and it's not just armor, but it's like little oddities and things. It's super cool. You can literally make anything with it. It's amazing. It's an amazing material. But if you don't want to use Worbla, you can do things like craft foam by itself. Because you know craft foam is kind of flimsy. You buy like 2mm craft foam sheets at like Michael's or Walmart. You can get like a roll of it from Michael's, or you can get like sheets of it. It's really cheap. You can get like 10 really large sheets for like $9 or something, and you can get like a big roll for $9. It's a lot cheaper than Worbla. That's why I started off making stuff with it, so I could kind of grasp the basic idea of making armor before I went and used this super expensive material on it and possibly messed up. So with craft foam, how you would do that and how it differs from Worbla is that it would be a little more flimsy. You'd have to prime it better, and I can get into priming in a minute too, because that's also very important. But okay, have you guys all seen the thing? Okay, cool. Can you pass it up to the front? And then Jasmine, pass it to you. Okay, so I've made armor out of EVA foam as well. I've cosplayed this character before, but I like remade it, and the first time I used EVA foam. And to do that, foam is also like you use a heat gun on it and you can form it into shapes. That's also the thing with Worbla, is that it holds its shape no matter what you do. Like if you heat it up, you form it to a shape, or form it on yourself, and then you let it cool down, it'll, like when it cools down, it'll hold that shape, and it's really useful. But it also sucks because when you're traveling, you have to play like Tetris. I cosplayed a demon hunter from Diablo 3, and it was like full armor, everything. And I actually have this like giant container that I put everything in because there's just so much. But it's all made out of Worbla, which means it's okay, it won't get damaged because Worbla is so sturdy. Do we have enough chairs? There's more chairs over here if you guys, and there's 2 over here if you guys want to grab them. I don't want you guys to have to stand for an hour. Also, if you have to leave at any point in time, feel free to do so, I won't be offended. Let's see, anything else, any questions, anything like that? No? Okay, I'll just keep talking then. So, EVA foam, yes. So EVA foam is basically, how many of you know what EVA foam is? EVA foam sheets. Okay, for those of you that don't know, which is fine, it's like, you know those interlocking, like 2x2 floor mats? They're like exercise mats. You can
like
get them
in kindergarten?
Yeah, like those little, yeah, you can do all sorts of cool stuff with it. I remember playing with them as a kid. I would make like boxes and get in them. It's cool.
And then throw them at people.
Yeah, throw them at people. Or people use them as like a flooring or like a mat. Like I've seen like behind cashiers where they stand, they have them on the floor, stuff like that. People exercise on them. It's really cool. You can use that. And like, I mean, cosplay is a lot of just repurposing everyday things for things they're not used for, which is really funny when you buy it, because they're like, why are you buying like 10 sheets of this? Like, why do you need it? Or like, why are you buying so much craft foam? It's like, well, I make stuff with it. That's all you need to know. So yeah, so EVA foam and any type of foam gets really soft when you heat it up, and you can shape it. It just doesn't hold its shape as well as Worbla does, but I have used it before, and it is like easier on your wallet. It depends. Like that's why I didn't cover these in Worbla. That's why I didn't cover these in Worbla, because I figured they'd be fine on their own. I just have to be careful. Like I keep knocking people with these, and it's really scary because I'm scared they're gonna break, because they've already been a little bit damaged. That one's a little bit damaged, but it is still doable. So let me go ahead and pass around the not broken one, and I'll talk about that for a second. So,
maintain its status.
Yeah, this is made out of foam board. I cut it at an angle so there would be a beveled edge to it. And then, I mean, that's literally all I did. And those little details on it, all these little details on it is just hot glue. Like, literally, it's the cheapest thing ever. It probably cost me less than $10 to make. But you could also use things like EVA foam. An important thing with EVA foam is you need to sand it. People make armor out of EVA foam. Like, how many of you are familiar with Jessica Negri? So, she made her Deathwing entirely out of EVA foam. There's some Worbla bits, but it's such a massive costume. It shows that you don't have to use Worbla for everything. Like, sometimes, yeah, sure, you get what you pay for, but you don't have to make a really cool costume that lasts for a while. You just have to take care of it and prime it well, which is what we're getting into now. So, priming armor, and props and stuff, but priming is really important. Essentially, priming is covering it in like glue or something like that to like make it sturdy and prepare it for a paint job. And what I do and what I've done on this armor is I did like 4 layers of wood glue, like Gorilla wood glue. You can get it for like a big tube for like $1 at Walmart or the Dollar Tree or something like that. And I would go in and dip my brush in Mod Podge, and you can get that from like Michael's and Walmart. It's what is Mod Podge used for? Like, isn't it for like artists or something? Something like that. I don't know. Anyways, yeah. Okay. So, but because wood glue is really thick, and that's why it's good for priming, is it completely smooths out the surface. Because Worbla is actually very grainy. And if you're sanding something or whatever, you might not get that perfect finish in the end. And that's where wood glue comes in, priming, yay! Because essentially when you do that, it completely smooths it. And you can kind of sand in between layers. I only do that if there's really intense like brush strokes. If you use those little sponges on a stick, those brushes, I think that eliminates brush strokes, but I prefer using brushes. You can also use little like cosmetic wedges. That gets messy and it gets all over your hands and you gotta peel it all off and wash your hands, etc., etc. But I prime with wood glue. I do 3 to 4 layers of that, smooth it out with Mod Podge in between, and when it's all dry, I do another layer of Mod Podge and then I spray paint it. And there's a bazillion like painting methods for armor and props and stuff out there. This is just what I do. This is just something that may help you. That's what I'm here to do, is help you. But if you have a good way that you'd like to share while I'm speaking, feel free to raise your hand and you can... Hello? Okay, I thought it was going over. Hello? So I spray paint it, and typically, like, a lot of my stuff is silver, so let's say I'm spray painting it silver. So I spray paint it silver. You can use any spray paint, like $1 at the Dollar Tree, something like that, something cheap. And then I go over with Mod Podge because I weather my armor and highlight it a lot. And in that process, the paint can get rubbed off and it gets all over your hands, it gets everywhere. So covering it in Mod Podge, a very thin layer, gives it like a glossy finish. There's also luster and matte Mod Podge. I still find it's kind of glossy, but once you go in and weather it, the acrylic will kind of mattify it, give it a more natural look. Because if it's too glossy, it looks kind of artificial, even though it is artificial, but you're not going for that look. Is there like water in here? Dang, I should have gotten water before I got in here because my throat's dry from talking. But, so, where was I? Okay, priming, painting. Oh yeah, Mod Podge, okay. And then after that, I go in and I take some black acrylic paint and I water it down a lot. I've heard you can also really use oil paints. Works really well. I haven't tried it yet, but I think they're a little bit more expensive. Hi. Oh, is this for me? Thank you! Oh my god, give me 1 second. I'm just gonna take a sip of this. Okay. Let's continue. So, that was really nice. How did he know that?
Because he was standing right next to it when you asked him. Made that comment.
Thank you! Thanks! I really appreciate it. I gotta tell him thank you next time I run into him. That was so nice. Okay, so, where was I?
Mod Podge.
Mod Podge. And then I was at, oh yeah, weathering. Okay, so, I take watered down black acrylic paint and then I take it on a brush, big brush, and I just glob it all over the entire thing. And you're probably like, oh no, you just ruined it. But that's where you're wrong, because I take a rag, and like for this, I kind of wanted to go for a little bit of a hammered metal look, just a really worn look. It was way too bright and silver, and that's not really the look I was going for. And really, it just depends on what you're going for, what the character has, or your preference, stuff like that. But I do that, and I take a rag, and I just go and I like dab it all over it. It gets up most of the paint, but it leaves like a really cool textured finish to it on an otherwise very smooth surface. And I really like that look, but for some things, if you want it to be like lighter, cleaner looking, you know, I'm cosplaying Katarina, so I wanted it to look really like worn and like cool looking and like used and battle damage, all sorts of cool stuff. But if I was doing like a much neater character or something, and I still wanted dimension in the armor and the prop or whatever, I would just take more of it off. And the thing with weathering is you have to go a little bit at a time, because you can always add more, but it's really hard to take away because acrylic dries really fast. That's why you water it down. But let's see. Okay, so I'm like so scatterbrained right now. I keep like losing my train of thought. I'll go and I'll like focus on a spot and be like, let's stare at that for a minute. Let's see. Weathering. Ooh, weathering. I'm so zoned out right now. I'm tired. It's been a long day. Yo, what time is it? Isn't it like 2:30 or something?
2:15.
It's so early and I'm already so tired. I think it's because it gets dark so early.
I'm still in bed at this hour.
Yeah, me too, man. So after I weather it, I get it to how I want it, and basically when you do that with the water, the acrylic, and dab it away, it leaves it kind of in the cracks and crevices and deeper areas of the armor, and it gives it this really cool like dimension to it. It makes all, because you don't want to go through and add all these little craft foam details or cover it in Worbla and then just lose it when you paint it. You want them to stay, that's why you did that. And because you know it's also small and detailed, from far away you might not be able to see it unless you go in and enhance the edges and stuff. So I take a very thin brush and I take black acrylic paint or oil paint, whatever you choose to do it with, and I go on all the little edges. Thank you. Sorry, I almost forgot about that. Someone just walk off with it. Anyways, a souvenir from this. Let's see. So yeah, I go in and I do all the little edges, and you can always wipe away any mistakes before it dries. And then after that, I move on to highlighting, because I'm extra and I like to spend forever on my armor and painting it. I know some people that just spray paint it and leave it like that. I mean, you can do that. You can do whatever you want. This is just what I do. This is just me personally. I take like a pink pen. You can take a silver paint pen, or I use the white paint pen on this. It depends on the look you're going for. Or you can take some lighter acrylic, just anything a light color. Like if you're doing gold or brown armor, you can use a gold or a very light gold. If you're doing silver, you can do white. Sorry, they're doing stupid stuff with my video camera. They're like squishing my face. Oh my god, anyways, so let me just hide them so I can't see them. But I took a white paint pen and I went over the edges very lightly with it, and anything that I feel like I would choose a focal point where the sun would hit. And I would go and do that and then do a little bit on the other side. And that way, if it's like even in the dark when there's no light reflecting off your armor, it still looks like there is, and it still adds a really extra pop of dimension to your armor. I just really like how it looks. I think it's cool. For some projects it might not be ideal. For others it may. It just depends on what you're going for. Do what?
What was that? What adds the extra dimension to it again? I'm sorry, what was it that adds the extra dimension to it?
Highlighting. Oh. Yes. It makes it pop. Let's see, I want to talk about, I actually recently got a soldering iron. It's this metal tool, and it's like a pointy tip on it, and it gets really hot. Like if you touch it, you probably burn off your finger and your skin and everything. Anyways, that doesn't sound fun. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's not where I'm getting. And I actually wish I had done it on this. I thought it would have been cool. So say you have a character, and say your character fights like beasts and creatures and stuff, and you wanted to add like a scratch mark through like a pauldron or something like that, you could take the soldering iron and just like, because it's, you know, Worbla or any sort of foam kind of melts and separates and gets malleable when it gets hot, you can just take it and like do a line down with the soldering iron, and it'll add like a really cool scratch effect to it. And then you can go in and you can fill it in with black or whatever. You can add like blood to it, all sorts of stuff. It's really cool. That's another thing. I have not done this. I think it'd be really cool. I've seen people that do this. They have like blood splatters to their armor. And of course it wouldn't be for everyone. Like, I wouldn't do that if I was cosplaying like Asuna from Sword Art Online or something like that. But for like a Diablo character or a World of Warcraft character, I totally would. And I think to do that, you could just take watered down red acrylic on a paintbrush and then do that thing where you like pull the bristles back and let them go and do something like that, or you can just like throw it at, I don't know, you do whatever.
It works.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would give a really cool effect, do like a really dark red. So yeah, are there any questions before I continue? Any topics? Because I didn't make notes for this. And I talked so fast that I kind of don't know what else to talk about now. Yes.
One trick that I've seen people do for lightsabers, like to put carbon scoring or to put like some black paint into crevice, like how you found on your forearm brace.
Yeah.
One option that you have is to use spray paint and then use paint thinner or paint remover on a rag. And then lightly brush away and just repeat until you're satisfied.
Yeah, that's a lot like the acrylic and then wipe it away technique. That's essentially kind of what it is. Like I said, there's a bunch of different little techniques and things you can do. It depends on who you are as a person. Like, I've seen that everybody has their own little way of making things.